year-end close processes for financial services and payroll services training for fiscal year 2025. Um, just want to let everybody know that we are recording the session and that it will be posted on the website, including the PowerPoint presentation later. And we have members from financial services who are, even though they're not presenting, they're with us today. And so if you have questions, you can put them in the chat and someone from financial services or, will respond to your question. So have we pressed record?
Yes.
Thank you. Okay, next slide, please. Okay, good. Hello, everybody. My name is Lynn Ganyak. I'm the Director of Accounting Services and Financial Reporting. I believe this is my 16th year-end close. Not that I'm counting, but I will be joined today by various members from financial services, as well as logistics services and asset management and payroll and data services. Next slide. Okay, for today, we're going to be talking about the year-end memo, the tasks, and the different departments will be providing tips or reminders about year-end close. And then we also have some appendices. There are two of them for your review. Next slide, please. Okay, so just before we talk about year-end close, you've probably heard, like people talking about the general ledger, actuals detail, budget ledger. So just a brief overview. What are we talking about? Like we're accountants, we know what this is, but so let me just give a quick overview of what the general ledger is. Basically, general ledger is where everything posts. That's we have three types of ledgers. We have the actuals, which is managed by ASFR, Accounting Services and Financial Reporting. We have upper bud and base bud that's managed by the budget department. And then we have ledger KK, that's for purchase orders or encumbrances. We maintain all this information in CFS, which is our PeopleSoft Common Financial System. This PeopleSoft CFS is managed by the Chancellor's Office and used by the other campuses in the CO except San Diego. So within CFS, we have accounts payable. This is where your invoices, your concur expense reports, your check requests are processed. Accounts receivable and billing, this is where we generate non-student invoices to external entities, where we record payments and do dunning letters for collection efforts. Asset management, this is where we track what we call assets that are 5,000 and over. We have various categories for assets, equipment, building, leasehold improvements, blah, blah, blah. And then we have purchasing. This is the requisitions. So there are external interfaces that feed into CFS. One of them is HR, Human Resources, HCM. And this is where our payroll is processed. So then that gets fed into the general ledger. CSU by P2P, this is where you submit your requisition. It becomes a purchase order. The requisition moves into CFS. It's sourced into purchase order, and it gets posted to GL. Student admin, this is for the student fees and payments. And then Concur for P-card and your expense report. So these are your external interfaces. And then from CFS, we produce the reports in Titan Insights, which is our finance data warehouse. And then from then, we produce the consolidated financial statements. We submit this to the Chancellor's Office. So this is just a quick overview of what we're talking about, general ledger. So basically, ASFR were the gatekeepers or the bookkeepers of the general ledger. Next slide, please. Okay, so VP Grayley has issued the memo for year-end close. With the year-end close memo are the year-end close guidelines. So I'm not going to go through the memo and the guidelines. Next slide, please. So just wanted to remind our fiscal year 2025 started July 1, 2025 and will end June 30, 2026. Yes, for this year, we kind of changed the year-end checklist. It's pretty much a checklist now, and we can do a demo at the end if we have time. So you can use it to track your outstanding tasks that need to be completed before year-end close. We copied the format of the Chancellor's Office master timeline. So it is pretty cool. So hopefully this can help the departments with tracking the tasks that are due. Next slide, please. Okay, so what is year-end close? I mean, in a nutshell, year-end close is basically we're cutting off, we're done with fiscal year 2025. And the goal of year-end close is we need to match the revenues that are earned with the expenses that are related to those revenues. And this is for, accurate financial reporting, and this will also support audit. Next slide, please. So, for year-end close, CSUF, since we're a big campus, we're one of several campuses that is considered full scope for both student financial aid and financial statement audit. What does this mean? This means that KPMG, our external auditor, they're very, very thoroughly reviewing our financial transactions for both the student financial aid and our financial statements. So they look at invoices, they look at capital stuff. They look at a lot of our financial transactions. This picture is a photo of the CSU consolidated financial statements. So I just wanted to thank everybody for the great job that we did last year. If you look at it, we ranked 7th in excellence in financial reporting. That's why the campus is on the cover of the CSU financial statements. And that's because of all the hard work of financial services, including all the departments who attended our training and did what we were asking them to do. So thank you very much. And hopefully we can be on the cover again next year. No pressure, Justin. So this is for both our legal close and our gap close, which we will be talking about later. So next slide, please. Okay, so this is just a timeline of our close. So like I said, it's July 1 until June 30. We're pretty much starting right now already with the training, starts in April. For legal close, this is what the departments will see in Titan Insights. So it's due on July 15. But even though we're due with the legal close, ASFR still has to move on to our gap close, which we're quite busy until September. And then there's the auditors are here October, November, and then the chancellor's office finally issued the financial statements just a few weeks ago this March. So it is a very long process, and here we go again with close. Sorry. Okay. So like I mentioned earlier, the goal of basically in accounting is like the matching principle. You have to match your revenues with your expenses. In this photo, we have an invoice for $6,000 that was posted that belongs to fiscal year 2025, but will not be posted until fiscal year 2026. Guess what happens? Your BBA is understated in fiscal year 2025, and it's overstated in fiscal year 2025, and in fiscal year 2026, it's understated. So we really want to make sure that all those expenses that pertain to this year are recorded in the correct fiscal year. Next slide, please. Okay, I'm turning it over to Cassie.
Good morning, everybody. I'm Cassandra Granello. I'm the Payroll Services Manager. I do go by Cassie. Next slide, please. So we just want to make sure that you get all your necessary documents into payroll by May 15th, 2026, so we can make sure we process them timely and get them in for month or year end. So just make sure you have any pay changes, any adjustments, overtime, special consultant pay, any retroactive stipends that you may have, or retroactive overtime or shift differential with appointments. Same thing, just make sure you get them in timely to us by May 15th, 2026. Okay, next slide, please. And that's pretty much it if you have any questions. All right, thank you so much.
Hi, my name is Annie Ekshian. I'm the Director of Logistical Services. I will be talking about receiving today. So next slide, please. The reason we get involved is we have a three-way match process set up at Cal State Fullerton. So when something is marked receiving required, it has to be received by the receiving folks down here. Otherwise, your invoice cannot be paid. So it has to be a three-way match between the purchase order, receiver, and the invoice. So therefore, in case you pick up something directly or something gets delivered directly to your department, the invoice will just get stuck in the system until such time that we receive the item down here. So please notify us immediately if you want something paid prior to your end. And if you have a last minute purchase that needs to be received, otherwise it won't be paid in this fiscal year. So make sure my email address is up here, and then you can call us anytime. Also, something else to keep in mind, we also handle postage and outgoing boxes. So in case there is some dire need to have that from this fiscal year, paid from this fiscal year, please make sure that you give us maybe a day or two heads up before June 30th so that we can process it in time. Next slide. That's it. And unless somebody has any questions, that's all I have.
Um, I'm not sure if Alyssa, are you here?
There we go.
Okay, there you go.
My
Thank
mute
you.
wasn't working, so I'll go
Thank you.
quickly. Hi, everyone. My name's Alyssa Adamson, and I'm here to talk a little bit about IRA and year end. Next slide, please. Okay, so what is IRA funding? IRA is a student fee, and it's funded by a category. It's a category 2 fee, and what that means is category 2 fees are managed by the chancellor's office, and there's oversight by the chancellor's office because a category 2 fee means that every student must pay that fee. It's highly restricted. Category 3 fees are fees that are for one class or a smaller population of students. Those are governed by our campus. But anytime it's a category 2, it's going to the chancellor's office because of the fact that all students must pay it. So that's why it's governed by all those layers of policy. But as a reminder, IRA follows the campus's stateside financial procedures as of a couple years ago. So it's going to follow all of the same policies that other state expenses follow. And the expectation is that at year end, the bulk of IRA will be spent down, and that's by June 30. As a reminder, IRA funds do not carry forward. So why is it important to spend down the funds by June 30? Really, it's just a responsibility to our students. And if you have a child or a relative that is in the CSU, you know the impact to your pocket. And so because we all contribute, right? We're through our taxes, we have an obligation to ensure that we have sound management and stewardship of the fees. IRA funding also, it's awarded for student programming in the same year that the students pay the fee. And so those students should benefit from the fees in the year that they contributed their funds. But we all know that small program balances are reasonable. And just a couple year-end notes, any open balances as of June 30 are going to be swept centrally, and then they're reallocated in the next year to whatever programs get awarded. And then funding approved for summer, that stays in place until this travel is fully expensed. And that's about a 60-day timeline from the last day of travel. We need you to get those expenses in. And just follow all the other fiscal year imbalances for purchase and expense submissions. And next slide. Wanted to give you a heads up that the award letters, they actually have gone out. So we're ahead of the game here. So everyone's been notified, as well as college leadership and the folks that are in the dean's office working on budget have received that notice. And the application process for 27-28 funding, that's going to open up in August 2026. So right at the start of the fall semester. And there's just a screenshot of our timeline. And the last slide I have is just a reminder that if you're a new IRA program, that means you need a new program code. Those codes are in place now. They're going to be set up with an effective date of July 1, which is the start of the fiscal year. And you'll be notified once the budget is in place and you're ready to go by July 1. Oh, yeah, and there's one more. Just wanted to let you know that our friends in accounting, they went ahead and they added to the FIS resources through the portal the IRA account codes. So that is now available for you to reference. Okay, and if you have any questions, please send an email to irafunding@fullerton.edu. Thank you.
Hi, good morning, team. My name is Alex Rosales, Director of Contracts and Procurement, and joining me today will be Nikki Algarin Chavarria, our e-business manager. Next. So we have a lot of information to present today. I'm not going to go through everything verbatim, but this information will be provided to you, so you'll have access to some of the resources that we're going to talk about here. I'll try to go somewhat fast as we have a lot of presenters and a lot of data to show. So P2P, as you guys all know, came to us in January 26. We've been at it, what, shy of 3 months. 326 will be 3 months or 90 days that we've been with the system. Again, it's a platform for all procurement and payment, which allows all goods and services, except travel and reimbursements to employees and students. It's a comprehensive tool designed to optimize the entire procurement to pay process. It ensures a seamless and efficient transaction from sourcing to payment within the CSU system. I believe some of you guys have seen some efficiency with the system. I know we in CMP have. It's so robust and autonomous and intuitive as well. So we're kind of liking it here. We've provided you some used commodity codes that are mapped to the CFS account. We ask you to please use those commodity codes on the second column there. Just like Lisa mentioned, these codes are also in the CSUF portal. If you go there, IFS resources, you'll see that it's the P2P category codes are there for you to reference as well and use. Next. Again, as mentioned, it was implemented January 26. Requisitions are no longer transmitted to CFS. Pre-encumbrances are not generated. Also, pre-encumbrances will not appear in Titan Insights. There might still be in OBIE, so I'm not sure if that's still a thing out there for you guys. This impacts the following dashboards. It'll definitely impact your revenue expense, your CFS dashboards, your reports, revenues and expense summary, the pre-encumbrance details as well. It impacts the purchasing dashboards, the requisitions, and the rec to PO voucher as well. Next. Again, I'm going somewhat fast, but if you have questions, do submit them in the chat. The team is here. They'll try to answer them as best as possible as well. So for fiscal year 2025 requisitions, please review your pending requisitions in CSU BUY or P2P. Approve all requisitions for fiscal year 2025 or withdraw them from the system before May 2026. Included a screenshot for you guys to see how you navigate through the fly-through window or the navigation breadcrumbs. The second column highlighted there is your status column. Look for anything that's pending, and you have the ability in P2P to see what is the delay, whether it be a DRA, whether it be a compliance review. You have the ability to comment as well, so we could get those moving. Next. So for fiscal year requisitions, we ask you to please submit any requisition that is considered a formal bid or anything over 250,000, which are the new thresholds we have issued to us. Submit those by Friday, April 3rd, 2026, so we could conduct a formal bidding on your behalf. If you have requisitions that are less than 100,000, those are due by Friday, May 8th, 2026 to us. And reminder, please attach all quotes associated with your request. They must be 30 days or old, nothing later than that. It might delay your acquisition if we have to go out and get a new quote on behalf of on your part from the vendor. And also, if you have any other supporting documents, attach them to the requisition. That helps expedite the review and gets your order issued to the supplier a lot faster as well. Next. So again, please review your requisitions or your pre-encumbrances in the reports. Ensure that all pending requisitions are completed or withdrawn by May 1st. Confirm ending pre-encumbrance balance is at 0 as of fiscal year period 12. Again, that helps the accounting team submit clean reports to the CO. Next. So for future year requisitions, which is one of the main things about this training, right? You guys want to know when you can start entering future year requisitions. As it's been in the past, we've asked you guys to please the system will be available for you guys to start submitting requisitions by May 11, 2026. This will be the new fiscal year purchase requisitions in P2P. For us, we're asking you this year. I think right now in the trainings in P2P, we've asked you to leave that accounting date a blank for current requisitions. We have our reasons for doing that. I think the system we discover, has its nuances as you roll out a new system. You get to learn these nuances. But for future year requisitions, we are asking you to please put a accounting date of 7/2/2026. July 2nd, 2026 was suggested by the CO, so we're asking you to do that as well. I'm not sure if it will impact if you put 7/1, but again, it helps if you do that. These requisitions will remain on hold until all current fiscal year requisitions are processed by the buyers or the CMP team. Any entries before this date will be canceled if we cannot get to them on a timely manner. Next. So the CSU Global Fiscal Year-End process, this global fiscal year-end time period is from June 1st through July 2nd. ASFR will open the June and July accounting periods in CFS for this process, or it could be also P2P. During this period, all requisitions will be routed for procurement review to confirm which fiscal year the transaction should be recorded. Again, the CMP team will have different options or conditional logic with the requisitions, and we could designate whether a requisition will be processed in this fiscal year or it could be placed on hold for the new fiscal year. When creating the requisition in the current fiscal year, year end for the new fiscal year, the accounting date should be populated. As mentioned, use July 2nd, 2026. Only active chart fields will be available in CSU BUY. Any new fiscal year chart fields or chart fields active in July will not be available in CSU BUY or P2P until that time. Next. Change order. This is a lot of information, and we have about 2 or 3 slides associated with this, but don't worry, we're working as a team to put together a Zoom or even a potential live session of change requests or how to handle change orders in P2P. So all change orders for requests for funding increase must be submitted through P2P via the requisition process by May 8, 2026. Use the change request to adjust chart field, price, quantity, or other related item to establish PO. Important, before creating a change request, it is necessary for you to review the current status of your purchase order. If there are any activity on the PO, such as vouchers, payments, or receipts, the change may not be possible. The screenshot here lets you again how to navigate to initiate a change request in P2P. Basically, use the flyout window, locate your purchase order, locate the PO you want to update, and then you select the document actions from the drop-down menu, and you would be selecting the create change request. Next. When you select that menu option, you get additional windows. In the create change request window, A will be for you to select the emails of the individuals you would like to notify. Again, you select those individuals and let them know what the reason for the change request is. You could also upload a link to the document if needed. Then you select the create change request. All these screenshots you see here are the options you see as a flow down as you progress through the process. Next. So to make change requests, the document looks like the order. Make change directly. I guess the system makes the changes directly to the document that you want to change. In other words, the PO. Click the pencil icon to edit the section or choose the drop-down selection for the line item actions. Additional comments as necessary to communicate what is changing. You could add those additional comments in this format right here. When you're done editing, then you select the submit request. One important note is the change request routes through the workflow. Once approved, it will merge with the current PO. So the changes, again, automatically happen in the system. If needed, the revised PO will be sent out to the supplier and CFS if applicable. So when we do changes to the POs in P2P, if it's monies or changing some type of a chart field account, the system does duplicate that or talks to PeopleSoft on our behalf. Next. All right. I think you guys are accustomed to seeing this slide in the past, as mentioned. Come June 15, that icon right there, that's how the CMP staff feels. Pretty much depleted. The battery needs to be reset. But come May 11, some miraculous reason, 3 days later, I guess we get recharged. Must be one of those Thunderbolt recharge cables or something being used. But we'll be ready to go for your new fiscal year requisitions. In that period, what we do is in P2P, we use the option to determine whether that requisition is going to be processed in the current fiscal year so that we could get those PO to those suppliers who need those requisitions before the beginning of the fiscal year or before July 1st. Next. All right, the open review process. As you guys have been accustomed, you get those. I think we're trying to get them out by the second week or the first week of the month. CMP distributes an Excel spreadsheet listing all your opening conversions or POs from the prior month. I work closely with ASFR. They help me provide the report. We massage it and then send it out to each respective unit or division. We ask that you guys please take a look at the list of open POs and validate for accuracy on the information provided. And then assist in requesting any outstanding invoices from the vendors. Again, this will help the POs run its course and naturally close out from the system. And if they do not, then you could advise CMP on which POs should be closed. One thing I want to mention here is Amanda had brought up in the previous presentation of this slide that you guys are seeing some of the staples POs, and that makes sense now because as I mentioned earlier, P2P imports the data to PeopleSoft. So you'll be seeing some staple POs that start with a 2400. Do not worry about those. The system is taking care of payments in P2P. So eventually those will fall off. A lot of the times when you see those in your report, they've already been designated as a soft close in P2P. It's probably waiting on Annie to do a receiving on our behalf, or it's probably waiting on you to do a voucher receipt verification or whether you received the product. Once you do that and you approve the voucher, P2P will close out those POs and organically they'll fall off of your open purchase order report. Next. So again, purchase order reminders, end users should review all your open PO balances to determine which POs we should close. If you do not, I am running, doing a little checks and balances here and there. And if I see POs that are 1 or 2 fiscal years already old, I am closing those on your behalf. What I do is I work with AP. If you receive a stagger invoice that comes through, we could direct expense it, assuming that there was a balance on the PO when I closed it. Commodity POs that have been fully received but still show a remaining balance after the final invoice should be scheduled for closure. I would advise that if you are approving invoice manually and submitting it to AP, just mark down final invoice. That helps them also identify that and helps the POs close on their own. Schedule service POs for closure once all services are completed and accepted and a balance remains after the final invoice. A lot of the times, again, you get a service, there might have been a small lingering amount on the PO. If it doesn't get closed by the AP system or even the final invoice flag, do not hesitate to send an email to the DL at CNP at fullerton.edu to specify what PO you want closed on our behalf. Next. So when submitting the inquiry form, please include the following information. So when you're emailing, again, the CMP at fullerton.edu, please reference your subject line PO closure, reference the purchase order number, the vendor and service provider, if possible, and the remaining balance of what you want closed. We do ask that if you have more than 5 POs that need to be closed, that you include them in a Excel spreadsheet. That helps us with doing a batch close on your behalf. And then it also helps us to, I guess, stagger the POs in a numbering sequence so that we don't miss any on your behalf. Next. All right. This is my exit. So I'm going to go ahead and hand it over to Nikki, and she'll give you some P-card updates.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Nikki Alberin Chavarria, and I'm going to go over the P-card updates, as Alex just mentioned. So Friday, June 12th is the last day to request temporary limit increases. This really helps the e-business team focus on closing out as many reports when we're not having to stop the audit process to address any temporary increases or requests that are coming through. So if you plan on making some large purchases towards the end of the fiscal year, you want to make sure that you get your increases in before the 12th. The last day to make purchases that will be guaranteed to post this fiscal year would be June 19th, Friday, June 19th. Next slide. And then with the changes that are occurring, we will have a change to the billing cycle. So with the new card system, our billing cycle will close Tuesday, June 23rd. This gives cardholders 3 business days to reconcile any outstanding reports. Because Tuesday, June 30th, would be the due date for all expense reports that are related to goods and services. They must be in the CMP's queue, which with the change will now be expense processor or P-card processor review. So please keep that in mind. The timeline is pretty tight, and there's going to be like a 3-day turnaround. So just be mindful of that. Next slide, please. Just as a friendly reminder, the business purpose, as you see here, is really for notes or comments that you want to see loaded to Titan Insights. It's limited to 64 characters. And then in the comment fields, this is where we really need to see the who, what, when, where, and why, your justification, your business purpose for that purchase. And this comment section will allow up to 500 characters. Next slide. So this is an example of what it would look like in Titan Insights. So as you can see, the highlighted section where it says Asset Management Conference references to the Concur expense type window in this blue highlighted box that says captured in Titan Insights. So you can see where that field is referenced in the reference 1 field in Titan Insights. So just again, so you can correlate the two. Before we move on to the next slide, I just wanted to mention a couple updates with the changes that are occurring. Old P cards will officially be closed for all P card holders tomorrow. So if you have any questions or concerns, please email eBusiness, but all old P cards. Has no impact on the new P cards. If you have not picked up your new P card, we are currently in the library. For those who have received notifications, they do not need an appointment. We are in the library from 9 to 11, and again, from 1 to 3. And then one last reminder, any outstanding reports, meaning anything that has not been submitted to travel or CMP for our review and approval, really needs to be completed by tomorrow. We will not have access to our Concur system after Thursday. So it's imperative that you get these reports in. Otherwise, it is a manual entry on your end. You will have to manually enter those transactions into the new Concur system. So please, please, please get those old reports in as soon as possible. All right, that's next slide. That's all I have. Any questions?
Hi, Nikki. For the Thursday deadline for the reports, would that
Yes.
also be at 5 p.m.?
I will take reports until 11:59 if that's what it takes. We will take whatever you guys submit, just get it in is really the thing that we need. You know, just submit the reports. The
Okay, I
sooner the better.
appreciate it. Thank you.
Yep. All right, thank you all.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Alberto with Accounts Payable, Travel, and Tax Compliance. we're going to get into some of the important reminders for our department. To start, I just want to give everybody a quick recap. These are most of the things that we handle in terms of the stuff that you do. So we'll be talking about petty cash, direct expenses, invoices, travel requests, and travel expense claims. But most importantly, we do want to remind everybody on the next slide that whenever you're working with any type of payment and it requires a form, like a PDF form, just make sure you go to our website to find the most up-to-date. Sometimes we make modifications. We're currently working on at least two different forms to help out with a couple different things. So we're hoping to get something new on the website shortly. So that brings me to the next point for e-submission. This is changed a little bit from last year, just given the introduction of P2P. So if for anybody that's receiving an invoice directly from a vendor, either by mail or email or some other fashion, make sure you submit that over to the invoice over to payables@fullerton.edu. The page has the full explanation on how to do so correctly. The approvals and receipt functionality will still route through CSU BUY, but that's so that we can get the invoice. Of course, vendors can choose to process their own invoices through their portal. And if they do, again, that'll still auto route to everybody for approval. So basically, whoever the PO owner is becomes the default voucher owner. So when a vendor puts in their own invoice, it'll automatically create the voucher and then route for your approval. And in that particular circumstance, there's no need to forward the invoice. It'll just come straight to our queue after it leaves the voucher owner. So yeah, visit the eSubmissions website for additional details on how to submit. And next here, we're going to talk about the petty cash. So our deadline is Friday, June 26th at 5 p.m. So all your petty cash forms need to have our approval before you go to the cashier's office. The deadline for the cashier's office is Tuesday, June 30th at noon. And that's to make sure that we can get the deposit in on time before the cutoff at the bank. So again, just a really important reminder, make sure you contact the cashier's office to schedule an appointment to make those to drop off those forms or make any deposits that you're making. Or in this particular case, the cash you're trying to get reimbursed. And again, we need to approve the form before you submit it to cashiers. Otherwise, it's going to cause a delay. Next, we'll talk about the direct expense slash check request. The deadline is Friday, May 22nd at 5 p.m. We do still have use for this form. Most payments are going to be processed through P2P, and that's a separate process. But there are still things that we're utilizing the check request for. Of course, that's going to change in a couple of weeks, a little bit anyway, when the new Concur system goes live. But if you're unsure of which process you want to use, you can email us at ap@fullerton.edu and we'll help guide you. But as a general reminder, make sure that whenever you do submit a check request or asking for a direct expense, that you have all the pertinent documentation attached to it. So your invoice, your invoice is more likely than not the most common that you're going to have there. But membership justification forms, if that's what you've got, or any other sort of receipts or whatever the case is. And then you'll submit that again through the e-submission process. If it's for a reimbursement, reimbursements do not run through P2P. So just as a general reminder, you'll need to do the payee vendor data record form. And that'll be the case even with the new Concur because reimbursements to a large extent will be operating through Concur. So you'll need to do a payee vendor data record form or a 204 form. Okay. For invoices, this is a little bit different now with P2P. But essentially our deadline is May 22nd at 5 p.m. Just a, quick reminder, if you know it's your final invoice, can you please indicate to us that it is, so that we can try to mark it final and hopefully help close out the PO. Now that's more or less still applicable to any POs that remain open on CFS. For the P2P process, you may need to put in a close request. If it's an invoice that's utilizing the remainder of your PO, it goes into what's called a soft close. So it stays available, if you will, for about 30 days, and then it'll officially close. But the funds will have already been used up. So it shouldn't cause any issues in terms of your budget, as long as it's, penny for penny, it is expending your full PO. And then a couple of tips: make sure your purchase order is noted on the invoice. Particularly right now, it's really critical that you do that, because as we're still kind of navigating the exit of CFS and the entrance into P2P, it would really help us keep track of where and how to process an invoice if we have that information handy. Most of the time it's there, but just as a reminder, if it's not there, please be sure to add it. And then once again on P2P, they get auto routed to an authorized approver for your department. Again, typically it's inherited from the PO owner, so whoever that is will receive on P2P the voucher to approve payment. And then just another reminder that to use the e-submission process, and follow that link to get the full instructions. Invoices for claimable funds. This doesn't really apply to everybody, but for anybody that this does apply to, there's a specific process we have to take for claimable funds. So this is a process where we're making a payment, and then we're going to collect the funds back from the state controller's office. That's kind of a nice little summary of what it is. The claim process basically allows us to get reimbursed, if you will. Usually you're going to use a DC and then XXX fund, whatever that is. And the invoice has to be paid before we can start the claim process. So that's very key. We can't do anything on the claim side without first having the invoice paid. The SEO's deadline for processing claims is June 15th. So we have to submit any invoices prior to that date so that we can make sure it gets picked up and processed for payment. So it has to run through the entire cycle. Okay, and then paper travel request forms. Again, this is another form that with the new iteration of Concur will likely start to close out. But for any that remain as we enter the new fiscal year, our deadline for submission of the paper travel request forms is May 29th at 5 p.m. So in April, we'll send a list of open travel requests to the division financial managers. And that's just to make sure that if you still need it open, that you have a reminder that you should be looking for an expense claim, or maybe you submitted the travel request form, but the trip was canceled or the participant didn't attend. Whatever the case is, you can close those out. May 29th, again, that's to submit the requests so that we can get those processed for the 6/1 to 6/30 timeframe. And then in July, we'll start assigning travel request numbers for next fiscal year's travel. Travel expense claims. Again, this is for the paper form. It's May 22nd is our deadline at 5 p.m. For travel completed after June 30th, continue to submit so that we can obligate those expenses to CFS. That ties back to what Lynn was talking about earlier. So don't stop processing. We're just asked that you submit by that deadline so we can try to capture as much as possible before the close. Forms submitted by the deadline may receive reimbursement on the last check Monday, which is the June 4th, Thursday, June 4th. But we ask that you submit within 5 days upon completion of your trip. So Anything that's completed between June 1st, any travel that's completed between June 1st and June 30th, likely will see a reimbursement in the new fiscal year. Okay. Concur expense reports. So the deadline for that one, it's very similar to what Nikki was talking about earlier. It'll say expense processor review is where it needs to be. So it used to say the AP and I think it used to say AP and E business review or whatever it was. Now it should say, oh, it's right there, approved and in travel or CMP review. It should say expense processor now. Let's try to make sure we get it into that status by June 30th at 5 p.m. After June 30th, again, continue to submit your concur expense reports. You shouldn't stop because the deadline passed. Continue to submit. You can still get reimbursed. We do accrue as much as we can in terms of your outstanding travel. So that helps to obligate the expenditure in the current fiscal year instead of pushing it to the next one. Our migration into the single instance is set to go live on June 6th. June 6th, April 6th. We've been talking about this a lot. This week is the cutoff of our current concur. The next week or so is going to be spent making preparations for us to be able to access the new system. So that's why we had to have the blackout period. But we've been talking to everybody lately and trying to express that if you have travel expense claims that you have to process between, I would say now and the go live date, make sure you PDF the approved TR so that you can attach to the TEC in the new instance. So you're going to make a PDF copy of your current travel request so that you can attach it as an expense claim on the new concur once we go live. There will be a lot of training. Invitations will go out once we see them from the Chancellor's office. So the initial trainings will be provided by the CO. And then after that, we will be following up with additional office hours and additional training and support. For the concur travel request, after the traveler's final expense report has been approved and processed by travel operations, the travel request should be closed in the new iteration. It's supposed to automatically close. That's one of the things we couldn't really test, but it's indicated in the documentation that they'll auto close. I believe 60 days after travel, but in terms of these timelines, you might want to close it out if you know you're done with the expense claim, you might want to close it out instead of waiting for this process to take place. But the screenshots that are there, the new concur will look very, very identical to our current concur. So the process you take to close a request is going to be the same. So if you have questions about anything right now related to concur, we urge that you email us at the dl-concurexp@fullerton.edu. That's to get any of the non-technical, I'll say, questions. For technical questions that are specifically related to the program itself, you can still email Concur. But everything else should go to dlconcurexp@fullerton.edu. And that's for both travel and e-business. We have the Concur resources page still available, which provide additional assistance and step-by-step guides. All of that will be updated after we go live and are able to do so. You can still schedule appointments right now, and we'll be expanding that once we go live. You can check statuses. So especially right now, as we're closing out things, if you're wondering what status is it in, do I need to bug someone to push this forward? You can do so by going into the travel expense claim or the TR and looking at the report timeline. It'll tell you who it's waiting for. And I think that's it. If you have any questions, feel free to contact us at AP or at travel@fullerton.edu.
Good morning. My name is Oliver Vela, representing the budget office, and I'll be going over a couple or literally two deadlines that are year-end relevant, as well as a preview of fiscal year setup from a budget perspective, and a couple of process changes that may impact some folks. Next slide, please. So for many of you who have been through at least one cycle, our deadline's roughly the same for budget transfer requests. We need them in by June 5th on Friday. And what's shown here is the budget transfer request. It's on our website, which I will post in the chat. Next slide, please. The next deadline is for payroll expenditure transfer requests. That's also on the budget website. That deadline is Monday, June 1st. Next slide, please. Beginning July, we will work on posting the new fiscal year budget, beginning with the initial base or recurring budget, as well as any prior year carry forwards. Next slide, please. So kind of what's shown here is an example of information you might find on Titan Insights if you were to look at your baseline budget. The baseline budget is composed of multiple transactions that are identified using a scenario. If you ever want to like decompose your budget into individual transactions, just look for any transactions that are labeled scenario and initial base. Next slide. And then for prior year carry forwards, those are identified and as a scenario prior year carry forward. Also, any budget that's allocated for previously set up encumbrances are also identified with a scenario prior year encumbrances. Next slide, please. So just an announcement. The system-wide office has announced a change. Temporary account 601302 is to be retired. Now, the change is meant to allow for better data, for better clarity of that data, especially for to comply with legal reporting that the Chancellor's Office needs to submit to the state. Most critically, this would be information that's posted on the Department of Finance's website, the budget galleys as they relate to the CSU system. What we want to emphasize with this message is there are no actions needed from you, from the folks in the departments. What's going to happen is in period 12, in coordination with our colleagues in accounting services, we're going to do a mass reclassification end of the year to convert all of the temporary account information into regular staff salaries. Again, no action needed on your end. And the budget office will also work on reconfiguring positions so that they don't code to 601302. In addition, we are working on an alternative reporting solution to give folks visibility into expenses as they relate to temporary employees, but there'll be more announcements later when that reporting solution is fully developed. Next slide, please. Lastly, there is a change to billing through ASC. As you recall, if you were to code expenses, for example, payroll expenses with a billing code 7998, they generate a billing invoice to ASC. The change is that when we produce these invoices to submit to ASC, we need to include their purchase order number reference. So in order to facilitate that process, if you are submitting a position action to update a position to code to program code 7998, we ask that you email budget@fulton.edu with ASC's PO reference number so that we can forward that to our colleagues in accounting services. Alternatively, if you are submitting a faculty additional employment form to also code faculty additional employment pay to program code 7998, we'd ask that in that form, within the body of that form, I think there's a purpose field section. Please include ASC's PO number, and we'll forward that information again to our colleagues in accounting services. Next slide. So if there's any questions, please contact us at budget@fulton.edu. Thank you.
Thank you, Oliver. Hi, I'm Winnie. I'm here from Accounting Services and Financial Reporting, ASFR for short. And then will be joining me in presenting our slides a little bit later. We're almost at the end. Thank you for sticking through this with us. Okay, so this slide here is kind of a very condensed, very simplified version of that timeline Lynn went over at the very beginning, from the chancellor's office. So we keep saying year end close, all morning. What we're referring to specifically is actually the legal year end close. This one up here, FLCMP. Those are the ones that we do the submission to chancellor's office by July 15th deadline. That's the one that you guys are most familiar with. Underneath the surface, there's actually two more closes: firms close, FLCSU, and gap close, FL gap. Those are basically handled by the ASFR team, so you don't really need to. You're not really, seeing that on the surface, but this slide is kind of showing you how important it is for us to meet our deadlines. How important your cooperation and collaboration with us to meet all the deadlines is for that July 15th deadline, because if we can't complete the legal year end close, then we're going to have issues completing the next two closes, and that's going to delay everything basically. So this is just kind of that kind of overview there. We just kind of listed some of the ASL perform deadlines for the year end close here. I'm a visual person, so this would help my brain a little bit better. So I'm hoping this will help you guys. Importantly, make sure you download the latest version of the form from our website. And make sure that all the forms are, they're submitted by this deadline, but make sure they're also approved by this deadline. Because if they're not approved, then we can't really, proceed to process them. So let's go through this table really quick. So request for invoice, RFI, our deadline for that is Friday, June 26th. You would submit that to our email, asfr@fullerton.edu, with, the approval and all supporting documents. Reimbursement or deposit university account, both of those forms, those are due Tuesday, June 30, 2026 at 12 p.m. at noon to cashier's office at Gordon Hall 180. And then last but not least, expenditure transfer requests, ETR. Those are going to be, we set the deadline for Wednesday, July 1, and you would submit those through the ETR app. Make sure that, it's approved by July 1 so we can process them for current fiscal year 2025. Okay. We don't really have a form for this, interagency financial transactions, IFTs. This is more of a chancellor's office thing. So, if you don't remember what IFTs are, to quickly recall, it is used to bill another CSU, or the chancellor's office, or to get reimbursement from another CSU, or chancellor's office, like Long Beach or Los Angeles. There's more information on our website. Currently we have this deadline set here, Friday, June 12. It's not the final deadline. Technically the chancellor's office sets this deadline, but we haven't yet received that deadline from them. That deadline is basically chancellor's office basically saying, promise, we guarantee we're going to process any, the ITs you submit by this deadline for the fiscal year 2025 year-end close. We don't have that deadline yet, but once we do, we are going to, inform you all. If you are in our DL accounting updates, if you are a DL accounting update subscriber, you're going to get that information. So if you're interested, go to the ASFR website and subscribe. So some of you guys have access to submit our IFTs directly. So you can submit those by this deadline. If you don't have access, that's not a problem. Email asfr@fullerton.edu and we'll submit it on your behalf. Granted, you give us the supporting documents we need. Okay, next. So this is not really our area. Cashier's office is Student Business Services, SBS, but just wanted to, really, really point out the deadline here because it's going to affect the financial reports or the financial data. So cashier's office at Gordon Hall 180. Make sure you submit any checks for deposit for fiscal year 2025 by Tuesday, June 30, 12 p.m. Not the end of business day, 12 p.m. That is their deadline to accept for fiscal year 2025. So this will include any checks you received, your deposit or reimbursement university forms, and the petty cash disbursement vouchers, as Al mentioned earlier. Make sure those are approved by AP before you bring them to the cashier's office. Next, so Thai Insights reports, you know, hopefully you're making full use of the data warehouse that we have. We really want to stress that, you review your department's information, financial data in the Thai Insights data warehouse, especially the actual detail report and the revenue expense summary report. So what you want to do is you want to review it and identify any discrepancies or issues with, the transactions there, so that you can submit for corrections. You could submit the financial services documents to correct anything that's off in the Thai Insight reports. Especially for the revenue expense summary report, you're going to want to keep your eye out on the budget balance available, the BBA. Please note if your BBA is, for your department's funds, please note if your BBA is negative, that means you're overspent. If you have a positive BBA, that means you still have funds available to spend. I have a little note here at the bottom. So if you're looking for like the final year-end reports, even though the fiscal year ends on June 30th, they're not going to be finalized yet until at minimum after July 15th. That's when the deadline for our submission to the chancellor's office. They won't be ready in Thai Insights until after we've submitted to the chancellor's office and after they've accepted our submission. Once they've accepted it, ASFR will send out an email notification to let you guys know that the final year reports are now ready in Thai Insights. So again, feel free to subscribe to DL accounting updates. Next, next we have P card year-end process. So if you have a P card, you're familiar with reconciling in Concur. So the general practice here is for P card billing cycles, usually once the transactions are approved, they're usually posted to Thai Insights like 1 month delay, basically. So for example, May, the billing cycle date is April 28th through May 25. That is going to be posted in June in period 12. What is not typical here is that for the June billing cycle between May 26 and June 23, it's also going to be posted in June, period 12, to try to, capture as much of that fiscal year 2025 information in the correct fiscal year. So when you go into Thai Insights and you look in June, for June 2026, after it's been uploaded, you're going to see both May and June for your P card transactions in there. For the rest of June, the remainder, June 24 through June 30, those are going to be part of the next billing cycle and won't be posted until fiscal year 2026. Okay, so this applies to Concur expense reports that are approved status in Concur being uploaded to CFS. So that's one status. The other statuses, I don't know if, these have changed with the new Concur instance, but like unassigned, not submitted, submitted and pending approval, approved at in travel or CMP review, or sent back to user. Those other statuses that are not approved, those are going to be accrued in fiscal year 2025. So what does accrue mean? So basically, when you have a transaction, like, that's for this current fiscal year, but it's not yet ready to post in the system, in our case, PeopleSoft Common Financial System, CFS, what we do is that we're going to record a manual entry in CFS in order to recognize that transaction for the fiscal year. And then, next fiscal year 2026, we're going to reverse or, back out that accrual entry because, we're expecting to still, we're expecting for that transaction to post in CFS, and we don't want to duplicate it. So basically, that's what we mean when we accrue a transaction, and that's what we mean by an accrual entry. So, for example, like for a revenue that has been, we accrue a revenue when it's been earned but not yet collected. That would be a corresponding accounts receivable recorded in CFS, and expenses that are accrued when they are incurred but not yet paid. So we would, have a corresponding accounts payable recorded in CFS. Right here we have for year end, ASFR does 3 accrual entries, but those aren't, this is not the all the accruals we do. This is just, kind of what we do every year for P-card expenses, travel expenses, and child requests. These are all the ones that are, well, P-card expenses, travel expenses are the ones that are not in improved status. We'll go into detail in the next couple slides after this. So this is just an example to kind of like, you know, kind of get into the whole accrual thing. So this is after we've completed legal year end close and the gap close. So this is right around the financial statement parts really. If you look at this, it's kind of hard to read this, I guess, but what these screenshots are saying basically is that before we close for the year end for fiscal year 2024, we recorded about 10.9 million in accounts payable in CFS, and then afterwards we received an additional 23.8 million that we accrued in gap close basically. This is kind of why, even if it's after the deadline, keep submitting those invoices and so on, for the current fiscal year as soon as possible so that we can, obligate it and, record them for the fiscal year if we can, Okay, next, so this is going to be the P card accrual process. The slide is kind of like giving you kind of like the details on how you can figure out if it's a P card accrual in the system. You don't have to worry about doing accrual. ASFR will do the accrual, but you're gonna see it in your Titan Insights reports. So importantly, it's one of the biggest clues is if the source code is OBL. And for the P cards, that would be the accrual date would be June 30th, 2026, and we don't reverse this accrual until August 1st. Okay. So the chart fields we're using for this accrual entry, for all your P-card transactions that are not approved. The account, fund, department, program, class, project. We're using the same chart fields from Concur for this entry, except if your status is unassigned or not submitted, in which case there is no chart fields entered in Concur. So ASFR we will do our best to identify the appropriate chart field based on the merchant name that's provided on the Concur. So here's the screenshots. This is from fiscal year 2024, as we haven't done the accrual process for fiscal year 2025 yet. So at the very top there, you'll see $325 for a P card expense that's not yet approved. You can actually see that the reference is not submitted. So that's the status in Concur. So we book an accrual in period 12, June 2024, to record that P card expense that hasn't hit CFS yet. And then in next fiscal year, 2025, we reversed it out in period 2, August 2025. So that's the P card accrual and reversing entries. We also do an accrual for travel expense reports. Again, source code OBL. Journal date is going to be June 30 for the accrual entry. And then the reversal for this one's going to be July 1st instead of August. And same thing with the chart fields. If it's provided, we will use those for the entry. If it is if it is status unassigned or not submitted, then we will, do our best to identify the appropriate chart fields. And this is the example in Tight Insights for both of these. For the travel expenses, to the top there, we accrued for $5, period 12, June 2025, and then we reverse that entry in period 1, July 2025. And then lastly, we have year-end accrual process for travel requests. So this is for approved open travel requests. Not sure, if the new concurrences automatic closes, within 60 days. This will be a much smaller file accrual entry than in the past. So if your approved open travel request is not closed by the year end, ASFR will post an accrual encumbrance entry. The other two accruals were in actuals. This is in encumbrance. So you'd find in your encumbrance detail report in Tight Insights. So again, source code OBL, journal date for accrual entry June 30, reversing entry is on July 1st. So that's why, in the past, we've always stressed how important it is for you to close all your open travel requests after all your travel expense reports have been submitted and already processed. Not totally sure how the concurrent instance will affect this, but just relaying this information just in case. And here's the sample from the encumbrance detail report at the top there. You'll see we booked an encumbrance and accrual entry here for June 30, 2025, last fiscal year, and then reversed it in the next fiscal year period 1, July 2025. Okay, so that's the accrual entries. And I just wanted to give you a quick reminder. Per GASB 103 financial reporting model improvements, if you've been using account 580093 for like other operating revenues, please use account 580090 instead. Account 580093 is restricted to these following types of transactions: gain loss on disposal of assets, rebates, insurance recovery, commissions, and losses settlement. So you can use 580093 account for these kind of transactions, but if it's like other revenues that are not part of this list, please use account 580090 if applicable. And then next, Lynn's gonna chime in.
Thank you, Winnie. Speaking of accruals, we just wanted to remind everybody that it is a chancellor's office policy that all any amounts owed to the university for must be recorded in the general ledger. And so please work with accounting services and financial reporting if you need to bill an external entity. We're talking about non-student for like MOUs or game guarantees, contracts, anything. Please work with CNP, for contracts, but the billing process is handled by ASFR, and we need to make sure that we're recording these amounts that are owed to the university, especially at year end. Next slide, please. So, if in case it should only be ASFR that should be managing these invoices. If in case a department decides to send their own invoice, might be prettier than an invoice, you're not going to get the revenue until the invoice is paid. If you go through ASFR, once we generate the invoice, you're going to get the revenue. So let's say we build something on June 29th, and it doesn't get paid until July 5. If you were to do the billing yourself, which is not really allowed, we're not going to be in compliance if you do that. Your revenue will not be posted until the new fiscal year. But if you go through ASFR, as long as we bill it in June, and even if it's not paid until December or September of 2026, you will see the revenue and you will get your BBA. So just a reminder, please work with ASFR. I mean, there should be incentive enough not to be sending out those invoices. Come on. So please work with ASFR on any billing amounts owed to the university. Next slide, please. There are some departments who have worked with ASFR that has an e-market account. If your providing services, not goods. We will work with you in June if there's anything that's owed to your department that has not been paid. So an e-market is basically a portal page and the customer can pay online. So, but we will work with you on setting up accounts receivable if needed. Okay, that's the same. If you have questions, please email. I strongly suggest that you email asfr@fullerton.edu so that one of us, if I'm not here, when he's not here, somebody from the department will respond to your inquiry. Next slide, please. So this is just the list of year-end contacts with our extensions and our emails. Okay, we've also provided acronyms. I know we get feedback that we have a lot of acronyms, so this is just for your reference. And we would like to thank everybody. We have a really huge group who attended today, and also special thanks to our presenters who did a great job. Shout out to Winnie for putting all the PowerPoint slides together, making updates, making them pretty. Next slide, please. Please, complete the survey. Any feedback, good or bad, we appreciate it. We do really read the comments and make sure that if there's something in there, we make improvements if we can. So please. Yes, the PowerPoint presentation will be posted to the website as well as the video recording. We just need to make sure that it passes accessibility and that it will be posted to I believe, our YouTube channel as well. Next slide. We also have the financial services office hours. There's a link in there if you need help. And Appendix A, this is just, year-end close tips, and then Appendix B are just examples of Titan Insights reports that will show you, how to understand these reports based on the document source or the document date. We still have everybody with us today, so if there are questions, please let us know. And I am done. Thank you so much. Questions?
So what we can do is we can actually show you the new year
Oh yeah, that's true.
that we borrowed,
From
elements
CO.
from the chancellor's office.
Yes.
So
Thank you, Winnie. I forgot about that.
let me move that to, give me one sec. I have too many windows open right now. Okay. So here is the financial services training survey. So make sure you go select here in training and give us feedback. We love feedback. So you go to the financial services website, go all the way down to here. This year 2025, July 1, 2025 to June 30, 2026 year-end close guidelines. You're gonna get this announcement, and then there's a PDF version and Excel version. The really cool thing about the Excel version, here, click enable editing, is that we have these formulas in place. So how do I make this bigger? I hope you guys can see this. So we have this column here that kind of has formula that tells you when something's due, coming due. Like these dates have passed. This is due within the week. This is due today because it's the year-end close training that we just completed. So we can knock that off, mark it completed. It's gonna do that. So there's a couple options here, status. So if, for example, you're like me, you don't have a P card, you can just put not applicable. And this is just for your own, this is your own checklist, to help you keep track of things. You can filter various things here.
Wait, is there a column for notes?
I don't think we have one. They could
Oh,
probably
okay.
put
They
their
can
own
add it.
notes
Yeah,
here.
they can add it.
Like as they
comments.
see fit. If you have a purchase requisite, if you are expecting a purchase requisition of over 250,000 and you're working on it, you could actually make this into in progress. And yeah, those are your status options, and hopefully this will be useful for all of you. That's this first tab, and then you have the year-end context tab, which is, oh, I think I have to update something here, but um I'll update. I think I'm missing a contact on there. I'll update it, and then we'll re-upload that. But yeah, that's what this year-end close checklist is.
And special thanks to the CEO because we copied their format and
Yes.
formula. So yes. Well, we appreciate everybody's time. I know it's like over an hour of presentation, but there's just a lot of information to cover because of all the changes that have happened and are still going to happen with Concur. Please email the respective departments if you have questions, and happy year end, everybody. Thank you so much. Thank you, presenters. There's a survey. Please complete the survey.